Ocean View Terrace is a residential, primarily single-family lot subdivision development. It's on the north-facing slope of Nanaimo. It's got great access to amenities, parkland inherent in the development and very nearby. The street's designed for people rather than cars. It's all been considered in advance.
It provides, expansive views for each of the property owners, the future homeowners. They'll be able to look from their particular elevation over the elevation below them with a clear view of the ocean. You don't get that with flat land.
Ocean View Terrace is a really successful project. It's a community within a community in a sense, and is going to be a fabulous place for people to live.
The challenge of the site was that it had a very steep slope, so unless you can reduce the impact of that slope for the building site, you're going to have some difficulties with steep driveways either going up or down.
The terracing of the split roads, where we've kind of taken a conventional road and we've split it into two pieces, allows the land on both sides of the road to be accessed. The steep driveways in effect disappear into a steep median between the two roads. It was a really unique moment where we all of a sudden were able to take a site that had sat for a long time and say, wait a minute, I think there's a way to develop this. But one neat thing that arose out of it was the opportunity to put the streetlights down the middle of the road. And so we custom-made streetlights so that the lamp head was the same distance from the pavement, both on the high and low side of the road. And it's added, I think, a really appealing feature to the project. Another challenge we had was dealing with the north-facing slope because, of course, it's a bit less well exposed from sunlight point of view. So in creating relatively narrow terraces and making sure that there weren't any huge back walls anywhere, we've been able to ensure that while there's a fabulous view out the north-facing front of the houses, there's also great sunlight exposure into the backs of the lots. The site presented numerous challenges, and we quickly realized that conventional methods were not going to work.
It's totally different from anything we've ever done before in design and in difficulty, I guess.
We were fortunate enough to have a really sound young man whose great computer modeling skills we put to work here. And he's done a fabulous job of allowing us to construct the whole project in the computer. So rather than just establishing some design drawings, which is a normal practice, we've actually created that project electronically. What we've been able to do now is download that whole three-dimensional electronic model into the GPS unit.
The GPS is a new system that there's probably only 3 on Vancouver Island. And this machine moves around and you constantly know where you're at, where your cuts and fills are, where your road is, everything's in there, and it seems to work very well.
It's actually working out very well economically and meeting all our design goals. It's been a trend-setting type of process that HLD will be using time and time again in future projects. We set out to do an environmentally sound project. When you start, there are a lot of factors you've got to bring into account, like the shape of the land as it sits, the economic viability of the project. The site took an amazing amount of reshaping to meet the objectives of reasonable road grades, good driveway grades, great viewscapes, and the sort of lot sizes and zoning that the city permitted. So it's been a fairly massive earth-moving exercise. But through the process, we've come up with a great wall design that really enhances the project. It does it because the actual substance of the walls is primarily the till we've dug up, and so we're not bringing material in and taking spoil material out.
We needed to make sure that we maximize the usable space, minimize the footprint, but yet we wanted it to blend in and provide some aesthetic benefit.
The computer modeling allowed us to balance the cuts and fills so that we were able to confidently know that we had the right amounts of materials on site. It's been a really efficient way to build.
Slopes that we've been doing here, one, were a very good economic alternative to what would have been used in the past, and have some pretty significant environmental advantages. Just the sheer fact that they're green and vegetated versus a hard concrete is a great plus.
Sediment and erosion control is a really important part of land development. We really have to appreciate that the land development work we do upstream has a big impact downstream. On a sloping site, of course, there's challenges in dealing with that. You don't have room for the big detention ponds and such that you do on more level sites. But nevertheless, we were able to design these ponds into the process, and they function really well. The contractor was fully aware of practices that he needed to implement to minimize dust, to minimize silt getting into water, and the measures we've taken have been really successful.
It needed to be developed. For years we've had difficulty with water coming down the side hill, but they've developed a system where they catch the water and solves the problem for the people on the lower end. It's really great.
Part of sound environmental practice on virtually any construction project these days is to avoid burning. And so we brought a shredder onto site and shredded all the debris that was left over, and that material is being used for dust suppression, and it'll be used for landscaping as well. One of the great advantages of that big center median is that it provides a lot of water absorption. We've designed it so that the runoff from the roads runs into green swales, and from there into the drainage system. Another great advantage that occurred to us after we were actually underway is that snow clearing can be done by pushing the snow into the center medians instead of into everybody's driveways. It's a real asset to the landscape there.
What we do is take on unique projects, and one of our main goals for these unique projects is to make sure that we are a part of developing and designing healthy communities for people to live in.
With View Terrace, I think we've created a really good livable community. It's really nicely connected to the surrounding neighborhood.
When I moved out here, this was a dirt road, and at that time, of course, it was covered with trees with regular arbor, but you didn't have a view. So this subdivision has opened it up and given tremendous views.
The views are probably among the best that the city of Nanaimo offers, in that you have unobstructed look right from the Winchelsea Islands across the Sunshine Coast, and on a clear day you can see right into downtown Vancouver.
I think it's one of the safest sites in all of Nanaimo. You've got a quiet street, people just can't speed.
What the split road does for us is, aside from providing the great viewscapes, they're narrower one-way lanes. They are going to encourage very slow vehicle traffic.
It gives a sort of a calm residential feeling for families, for children. And besides that, the beauty of the split road and the boulevard that occurs between those splits, it's a special place. It's pretty unique.
And then this is an existing trail, and we've almost a third of the site was given up for parkland. There's a beautiful stand of forest. The trails are to the city standards, and they're adequately wide for either cycling, walking. They're just a delight to spend time on.
You know, if you think about a person, a family living in their home, so often they have to jump in their car and go to the park. That isn't the case at all here. You walk out your front door, and in 5 minutes you're in a beautiful park.
In the house designs, we're really encouraging front porches and doing everything we can to create a pedestrian community that encourages interaction between neighbors. We're expecting a real diversity in the building types, and we're confident that everything from young families to retirees are going to find a good space on that site.
The beauty of it is, it's going to be a neighborhood, it's going to be a community.
View Terrace has just been a great success. Everybody who's seen the work we've done so far, everybody who's been involved in the planning process, all agree that this is going to be just a fabulous place to live.
We think this is going to be one that we'll all come back to in X number of years and drive through it happily and proudly.
We all live in developed places, and what HLD wants to do is to create quality in all those places, is to really fabricate just really good places for communities to exist, because that's the strength that we need to carry into the future. As really it's an environmental question, and it's also you know, as we face global warming issues and the other stuff that's out there now, healthy, strong communities are always what it's going to be about and what it's going to take to sustain us.